And good afternoon. Welcome to the booth on KDX AM 1590. Thank you for making us part of the day. Darren Todd here with a very special guest, someone I'm really excited about, the airport manager for the city of Malden, David Blalock. Welcome to the booth, David.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And I appreciate you coming. I know you've been extremely busy dealing with a lot of things going on at the airport. And just kind of tell the listeners a little bit about yourself.
Well, my career started with MoDOT. I spent 31 years with MoDOT over at Sykeston in project development. After I retired there, I became the executive director of the Boot Hill Regional Planning Commission in Dexter. Did that for about 3 years, and then I got hired in 2018 by the city of Malden as the airport manager, economic developer.
And where are you from originally, David?
I've spent my whole life in Malden.
I know that the Blalock name is very familiar in the area of Malden, and you've been very familiar with the people of Malden. Tell us a little bit about your MoDOT career. I think that's very interesting. What did you do while you're working for MoDOT?
When I worked for MoDOT, we did highway plans. We put together highway plans for Southeast Missouri. I worked on Highway 60, Highway 67. I got to work on some big projects like that. I don't know if you remember NN out here when they replaced the bridges on that. It's probably been 25 years ago.
Yes, sir.
That was one of the projects I worked on.
And did you have some kind of, what's your background or educational background that led you to work for MoDOT?
I just have an associate's with TRC.
Right.
And I started as a summer student back in 1984. And then that fall, MoDOT became into a lot of money, and so they needed to staff up, and I was able to get hired on. And then I just progressed up. When I retired, I was in a engineering position. I trained civil engineers how to do their job for MoDOT.
And it just goes to show that hard work pays off. Is that correct?
I believe so.
And you can honestly say that you worked your way up from the very bottom with an intern all the way up to the engineering. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
And how did you feel about that? Did you enjoy that job?
Yes, I really loved that job, especially when we go to a town and, like Highway 60 from Poplar Bluff over towards Van Buren, working with the people in the community, how it's going to impact them. A lot of people don't understand the impact when a highway comes your way. And, we had to deal with acquiring some homes from some senior citizens, sitting down, talking to them. I enjoyed that the most.
And I think anybody that knows you will indicate that you've never met a stranger. Anybody that's talked to David Blalock knows he's upfront and honest and going to tell you the truth about whatever's going on. And that's just been my experiences from dealing with people and, of course, talking to you. So I want people to know that, and I think everybody does. You said after that you went to the Boot Hill Regional Planning Commission for a couple of years?
Yes, at Dexter.
And what did you do there?
I was the executive director of that office. Steve Duke retired, and I was hired, and there I oversaw the staff, worked with the 6 county of the Boot Hill to obtain grant dollars to benefit the cities.
And that was to help bring in industry and things of that nature to help with the revitalization of the area. Is that correct?
It was more like cities who had wastewater problems. That kind of aspect of, some cities we got help with community centers, getting streets paved, drainage problems. That's kind of the aspects, which, when they got it fixed, it did make them more marketable for somebody looking to relocate to that town.
And when you indicate that it was more of a wastewater or a water issue, did you help them when they had water projects with lagoons and things of that nature, or was it more specialized than that?
No, that's what it is. They accessed a lot of USDA grants, and the community block grant program also helped fund a lot of those projects.
And we're here with David Blalock. He's the manager of the airport for the city of Malden. Talking a little about his past, he indicated, the 31 years with MoDOT, and then we're talking about the Boot Hill Regional Planning Commission here on Welcome to the Booth, KDX AM 1590 with Darren Todd. And I think it's very important, David, to talk about, a lot of people don't realize the amount of effort and work it goes on to live in a city, turn your water on, and have clean water come out of that faucet. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And explain to the listeners, you helped make that possible for a lot of places in Southeast Missouri, correct?
Yes. What we would do is we would go into a community, see what their needs were, and then try to find a grant that would match up with that need, and then guide them through the process of, hiring an engineer to do the plans for the project, and then helping them through the process of with the help of the engineer, getting a contractor lined up.
And you did that for about 3 years, and after that, you then had an opportunity to move to the city of Malden, where you're from, and been your entire life. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And you became the manager of the city airport.
Yes.
And what year was that?
That was 2018.
So you're technically on your third career. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And tell me a little bit about what are your duties as city manager, manager of the Malden City Airport.
As far as my roles, we manage 60 leases of property, buildings. So we manage that. We make sure that it stays in good shape. That's one of the requirements. When when the military deeded it over to the city, that was one of the requirements, that the city maintains it to be a viable income source for the city.
And we're going to touch a little bit about the really unique aspect of the Malden airport here in a second. But you indicated there's 60 leases currently on the airport. Is that correct?
Yes.
So is that 60 businesses are using the Malden airport at this time?
That is, we have 16 rent houses that we oversee. That's our farmland. Our farmland is broke up into about 15 small farms. So there's a lease for every farm, but we have 2 tenants that overdo all of that. We have ground leases, hangar leases, and building leases.
And is it my understanding that a majority of all of the leases, all the hangars and every available building is pretty much leased there? Is that correct?
Yes. We only have one vacant building that doesn't have a tenant.
And has that been the case the entire time that you've been manager, or did you do a good job of bringing in those businesses?
Most of those businesses was there, but we have inherited, or we've got a couple of businesses that have located at Malden. And so, it's a team effort. I partner with the city a lot, but we get calls all the time, people wanting a warehouse, an airplane hangar all the time. There's a need for it.
And we're talking with David Blalock, the manager for the airport at the city of Malden. We talked a little bit about the current leases and things that's going on with the airport. Explain to the listeners, how does the city of Malden and the Malden airport coexist? What's the management? Is the city in charge of the airport? Are you in charge of the airport? Explain that working relationship.
I'm considered an employee of the city, but the working relationship is the airport is self-funded. The city of Malden does not provide any tax revenue or any dollars to the airport to run the airport. What we get out of farmland, all our ground leases, that is our budget, and that's how we run the airport.
So you're a self-sufficient organization that doesn't get any dollars from the city of Malden.
That is correct.
Is that unique for the airports in this area?
I believe it is. There's some airports that the city manager will run the airport, but we're kind of unique because of how we got the airport deeded to us. There was a few restrictions from I think it was the Department of War when that happened. And so that's how it's been run since then.
And we're here with David Blalock, the a manager of the Malden Airport in Malden, Missouri. And that kind of leads me to the next thing, and then I'm going to kind of let you open this up for historical purposes. Explain what the airport was back in the 1940s or 30s or in that era.
If you look at, we have a drawing that shows all of the property owners before the military come in and purchase the property. It was a lot of small farms, 40-acre farms, 80-acre farms. There was 2 schools located on the property. I think there was 1 church located on the property before the military come in and started acquiring the property.
And how many acres was acquired?
Almost 2,900 acres.
And is that about the size of the airport now?
Yes.
So back in what year was that?
That was 1941 when they started acquiring property.
So in 1941, they started acquiring property, and they had an Air Force base. Was it an Air Force base?
It was called the Army Air Force Base.
And back in 1941, they acquired this 2,900 acres. And at some point, what did they do there at the air base in Malden?
It became active. It was constructed in 42. They come in and built 5 runways and majority of the buildings. In 43 is when they started training pilots.
And when you say training pilots, I think this is one of the most amazing things I've ever heard in my life. Training pilots for what?
They were to learn how to fly at night, fly in formation, identify enemy aircraft, and to interpret weather forecasting.
And how long did we do this training there at the Air Force, the base there in Malden?
Well, it opened in 43. In 48, because World War II was over, they deactivated the base in 1948. But then in 1950, when the Korean conflict started, they recommissioned the airport, except the military didn't run it. They hired a private contractor called Anderson Air Activity. And they, under contract with the military, did training until 1960.
And they trained, do you know approximately how many people were trained in that time frame?
That is hard. I've been trying to do some research.
Right.
Some of the classes had 50 students in it. Some of the classes had 100 students or 150 students. All I can say is there was probably several thousand pilots, trained, and a lot of them, they got their basics at Malden, and then they moved on to other training camps for more advanced training.
And we're here with David Blalock, the the manager of the Malden Airport Base. Talking a little bit about the unique situation of them training some pilots for World War II and the Korean conflict. Now, I'm also amazed. Is there an actual museum that's located on the airport there in Malden?
Yes, we have a museum. It's sponsored by the Malden. It's got a name. It's called MAPS.
Right.
Okay. To preserve some of that history, and there is a museum located in our office, and it's open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. When we're there, it's open.
Right. And if I was to go there, what would I see? What kind of items do you have available for us to view?
They have one of the Link trainers. That was one of the trainers that was used for the pilots. Basically, how you can get video games and you got a joystick. Well, this was the modern day for that. It's enclosed cockpit that they sat in, and they had somebody who stood outside it on the radio giving them commands of things they were supposed to do.
And I'm assuming as they were outside, they would monitor to see if they were doing the correct things. Struts up, struts down, flaps up, flats down, things of that nature, correct?
Yes. And there's actually a picture of one of the Lynx trainer on the website. If people are interested, they can search for the Malden Military Museum, Malden, Missouri, and there should be a MAPS link pop up, and there's a website out there that has pictures of a lot of that stuff.
And the next question, obviously, that a lot of people want to ask is, as I'm here with David Blalock, the manager of the Malden City Airport. If I was to go to that museum, am I allowed to sit in that and kind of see what's going on with it?
No, you can't. You can't sit in it. It's 1940s,
right?
And so, but you can see it. They've got pictures of the inside of it. But when the MAPS group got started, they found this way out west somewhere, and a local business there in town donated a transport truck to go out and get it. And there were several people worked on refurbishing this, and then it was dedicated to the museum several years ago.
And I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but what year was the museum actually started there?
That's a good question. I would say probably mid-90s.
Mid-90s.
Yes.
And you also indicated there's an actual trainer there. Is there other things that someone can go and look at as well? I think you brought a couple of neat things that you were talking about, and they basically look like high school yearbooks.
Yes, there are yearbooks for certain classes. People have donated, when their grandfather or whatever has passed. It's like, what do we do with this? We get a lot of that. But there's actually yearbooks for the classes. There are, uniforms. There's, lots of photos, that kind of stuff that people can just kind of mill around. I mean, if somebody shows up, you spend 2 hours, you'll see everything.
And is there any kind of admission cost or anything that to go through the museum?
No, it's free to the public.
And again, it's Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. If you're there, it's open.
Yes.
And we're here with David Blalock, the manager of the Malden City Airport. And David, talk a little bit about the current situation with the Malden Airport. You indicated that it's a thriving airport. Is that correct?
Yes. We have about probably 15,000 flights a year. Half of those are crop dusters. They are used widely in this area. And so we do that. We have some private plane owners. So we have a couple of business clients that have their planes housed there. But it's just general aviation open to the public. And
you indicated there are several businesses that are also in the hangars. Is that correct?
There's a couple in the hangar. Most of them are privately owned individuals.
And is there also a situation that if I'm in the need of a mechanic or something to work on a plane, is that also available there at the airport?
Yes, there is Tango Charlie Aviation is located on the airport, and they can take care of you for the mechanic needs. The yearly they are required. They have to do a yearly inspection, and he can take care of all of those.
And the next question that a lot of people are going to ask, as I'm talking to David Blalock, the manager of the city of Malden Airport, do you fly?
No, I do not fly.
How did you come about becoming the manager of the airport?
They actually, when they were doing interviews, they were actually interviewing for an economic developer. And so that was the process we went through. And after we got through the interview, they said, in your spare time, you can run the airport. And I spend probably 80% of my time running the airport and not able to do a whole lot of economic development.
So if I might have mischaracterized exactly when I called you, are you also the Malden Economic Development Manager?
Yes. Developer, yes.
So tell me what that role would entail.
We a lot of times Missouri Partnership. I don't know how familiar you are with that, but they provide I call it a company's headhunting for a piece of property or something. They work with Missouri Partnership to say, hey, we need 50 acres of land. We need this amount of utilities. We need this building, or we just need land. We need a rail spur, and so they send it out statewide, and then we go through it. And I work with Yvonne Smith, the city administrator, and her and I look at it to say, okay, can we meet the utility demands? If we can meet everything, then we put together a packet and send it to Missouri Partnership, and they work with a consultant, and they go through a selection process.
And that's what you were originally hired for, is that correct?
That is correct.
And as a result of the airport and its success, a majority of your airport time is now with the airport, correct?
Yes, yeah.
And is it my understanding that your office is there on the airport?
Yes, yep.
And then talking with David Blalock, the manager of the Malden Airport, and I'm trying not to cut you short on your titles because I'm very impressed. I did not realize that. I've been to numerous city council meetings in Malden, and I've talked to the mayor, and I've talked to individuals, I've talked to you in the past, but I didn't really know that you had that economic background as well.
Yes.
Is that something that do you enjoy that?
It's hard to, I get people say, hey, you need to go find us 200 jobs. You need to go, and, we live in Southeast Missouri, and it's very difficult to find those big employers. Our labor pool is struggling. And so, I enjoy it to a certain extent, but I get a lot of people saying, when are you going to bring more jobs to Malden? And, it's Southeast Missouri. I know Kennett is probably they've lost some big employers too. and I know that they've had problems trying to get somebody to fill those buildings.
And let's talk a little bit about the airport there in Malden. You indicated that the city of Malden owns the airport. Is that correct?
Yes.
But it also still has some guidance from the FAA. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And explain to the listeners a little bit about what that means.
What that means is, like we've sold a couple of pieces of property on the airport to a business, and we have to go through a process with the FAA before that's done to release the property. And part of that is we have to get it surveyed. We have to have it appraised. And the thing about the FAA, whatever the property appraises at is what the prospect has to pay. There's no negotiations. And so once we go through all those hoops, we send it to the FAA. They have to publish it in the Federal Register for anybody who want to make comments. Then after 30 days, if nobody gets any comments, then they will release it to the city for sale.
And they'll basically file some kind of deed of release.
Yes.
With the county recorder, and then you can proceed with the sale. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
And let's talk a little bit about the airport itself. And obviously, how many functioning runways does the Malden Airport currently have?
We currently have two that are 5,000 feet long.
And forgive my ignorance, but would that be allow for all the air traffic that we would probably need in southeast Missouri?
Yes, you can. We can land a small jet there. During the eclipse, we had some fairly good-sized jets come in, private charters, just for the eclipse. But we had one fly from California. It was a family chartered a plane to come to Malden to watch the eclipse.
And I don't think a lot of people realize the worldwide event that was occurring, and the fact that we were in the exact viewing path of that eclipse, or
yes,
I guess is it viewing? I don't even know how to correctly say that, but a lot of people from all over the world came here to watch the eclipse.
Yes.
And is there also some railroad spur or activity that's that's also on the airport property?
Yes, as part of the military had that built, and when we got it deeded to us, there was a railroad spur that come with it, and the airport has expanded it. We have about 7,500 feet of rail for tenants that are in the industrial park. And
you indicate the industrial park. Is the industrial park surrounding the airport, or is it connected to the airport?
It's all in one.
It's all in one.
Yeah.
And so explain to me some of the businesses that would be there on the airport facility.
Currently?
Yes.
We have, hang on, make sure I don't. Currently, we have, probably 30 or 40 businesses. The Cotton Hill Township, which takes care of our county roads for
right.
more. They have an office there. Novatech, Landco Building, and Boots and More, or Boot Hill Boots. They do storage buildings, but they also have a shoe store that is there. Malden Head Start, Dayox got a facility there. Fullerton Trucking is there. Cherokee Fabrication, they do a lot of cotton gin parts. Libel Trucking, A-Corp is their headquarters there. Hog Air is a crop dusting company. Asymmetric Solutions is a security company. And then we have Pop Weaver Popcorn. We talked about Tango Charlie Aviation. Medic One has built a new facility there. Telephone Switching does a lot of fiber optics for communications. And then we have Messiah's House.
And we're here again with David Blalock, the regional, I'm going to say that wrong, the Director of Economic Development for the City of Malden, as well as the manager of the Malden Airport. And we've talked a little bit about the expansive nature. And the reason why I ask you those questions, as you're driving down Highway 25, I don't think a lot of people realize that the airport property expands all the way right up to Highway 25. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And then it's so it's a lot more vast than you just realize. Most people, for instance, if you go to the city of Kennett Airport, it's a smaller area. This is how many square how many acres did you say it was? 2,900.
Yeah, we're roughly 2,900.
So it's a large piece of property in the city of Malden.
Yeah, and 1,900 acres of that is farmland.
Okay. And we talked a little bit about the museum. Is there also been some situations in the past in which individuals who have graduated from the program back in the 40s and 50s have came back for reunions?
Yes, the museum has held reunions for several years. The last one was in 2018, I think, or 2019. But yes, there are several that, you got to think about, okay, these cadets, how old they are now.
Right.
My uncle was one of the instructors, and he's 92 or 93.
Right.
And but so yeah, it was a big deal early on. They were coming, and as the years has went on, it's got smaller and smaller crowds.
And let me ask you this: did a lot of the people who eventually or have settled in Malden for a long time, did they come as a result of being placed there when the airport came? Do they move in to be the instructors and things of that nature, or most of them there and just became associated with the airport in some manner?
That's a hard one, but I
Right.
think in the heyday when the airfield was open, they were there training. They had around a population of 3,000 on the airbase, which was the same size of Malden
Right.
at the time, which was about 3,000. So, there was, these military guys come in, the local ladies, there was a few relationships come out of that. I'm sure that once they got done, they may have settled in Malden.
Sure.
And there's a few people I know that, their connection is to the airbase, is how
Right.
they landed in Malden.
And let's talk a little bit. We're here with David Blalock, the manager and the economic director for the city of Malden. What is currently going on? How's the relationship with the city and the airport and your development situation right now?
It's good. We have it's one of those things is, yeah, I'm independent, but I still work for the mayor and the city administrator for Malden. We have a really good relationship about different things. I communicate with them. Hey, we got somebody who's looking for this, because there's times that I'll have people call me and it's like, I'm looking for a building. Well, I may not have one on the airbase. So I get a hold of the mayor and I get a hold of Yvonne, and it's like, okay, is there another building in town that we can, fit this bill?
And if I was a listener and I was looking for some kind of facility to rent there on the airport there in Malden, how would I contact you, David?
They can just call the airport office. We've just searched for me. We're off the city's website. We're on there. My contact information, my email, my phone number is on there.
And you're always willing to talk to people, and if you can't help them, you're always willing to help them in the right direction to improve the area of Malden and all of Dunkling and Stoddard County. Is that correct?
Yes, because we have connections. I know Melissa Combs here in Kennett, and then there's Alicia Trammell in Dexter's with the chamber. Yeah, so I try to say, hey, if I don't have it, and they're good about calling me saying, hey, do you have this? So we're trying to make it work for all of Southeast Missouri.
And we're here with David Blalock, the manager of the Malden Airport and the Director of Economic Development, and we're welcoming him to the booth on KDX AM 1590. And we talked a little bit about the history. We talked a little bit about the current state of the airport, and we've talked a little bit about David and his work history. And not to try to put you on the spot, but are you still loving going to work every day for the airport?
Yes, because I'm only 5 minutes from my house. For 31 years, I drove to Sykeston. So, a 45-minute drive to a 5-minute, you can't help but love that.
And while you're in charge of the airport, how many employees do you supervise on a daily basis?
We have 3.
And that's a large amount of area to be taken care of with 3 employees. Is that correct?
Yeah. We have my office manager, Tara Smothers, and then I have 2 maintenance guys, Arthur and Donnie, that take care of the mowing, because we mow about 300 acres.
Right.
So we have a lot. We have a lot that keeps us busy.
And forgive me for not knowing this, but in regards to maintenance itself of the airport, how is that done? Who maintains the runways? Who maintains if there's conditions that need to be addressed on the airport, things of that nature?
We take care of it. If it's bigger than what our staff can do, we'll contract it out, or we'll try to seek grant dollars to do a more permanent fix.
And in the past, while you've been there, have you had any opportunities to reach out and get some grant dollars for the airport?
Yes.
Why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about what you've done to help maintain the airport there in Malden?
We have two runways. One is 1836. A couple of years ago, we were able to obtain a grant to rehab that. Basically, they come in and remove the runway, remove the base rock underneath it, put it all back. It's almost like a brand new runway. We installed some LED lights, and so we were able to do that through the block grant program through the state of Missouri.
And again, we're here with David Blalock, and I'm just talking about the manager of the Malden Airport. And again, you are 100% self-sufficient there on the airport. You don't get any money from the city of Malden at all, correct?
That is correct.
And you indicate that you also maintain the properties and things of that nature. Are you the one who's in charge of also putting together the budget for the airport every year?
Yes.
And explain to the people a little bit about how you do that. And I know that you think we just put some numbers down, but I think people need to realize that the work you do with dealing with numbers and bringing in dollars is very important to maintaining a viable, workable airport that can pass all regulations and inspections.
Yeah. Our budget is basically our income for the year. Apparently, I've been told that the FAA frowns upon stockpiling money.
Right.
So they basically like to see us to spend our entire budget every year on maintaining the airport, especially the aviation side.
And not to try to get you to disclose any secrets, but I know there aren't any secrets with you. Do you know the approximate amount of income that you make a year that you disperse yearly for the airport? In a roundabout number.
It's probably going to be close to 600,000.
You take that 600,000 and you divvy it out and things of that nature. Is that a number that has changed very much in the past few years?
It's went up a little bit because farmland has went up. Our farmland is cash rent, and we lease it out in 5-year increments. We put it out to bid. Whoever gets it has it for 5 years, and we give them an option of one time of an additional 5 years. But farmland prices has went up, and that's what makes our budget go up.
Right. And if there was anything that you would like to tell the people in regards to, and I think this is very neat, the museum there that talks about the history of the training that was going on in the 40s and 50s at the Malden Airport. How many visitors a day would you say you get?
It's more like visitors a month.
Really?
Yeah, it just varies. We may not see anybody for 3 or 4 weeks, and then we may, especially the summertime, we'll see more visitors.
Right.
But yeah, we may get 1 or 2. We had 2 yesterday.
Right.
And it's probably 3 weeks before that we had a couple more.
And we're here with David Blalock talking a little bit about the Malden Airport and the development aspect of his duties there in the city of Malden. And I guess, we had a show a couple of days ago, and we talked to Laura Doomey, the director of the Stars and Stripes Museum in Bloomfield, which is, I think, one of the most amazing things that people need to go see.
Yes.
I think this is also a situation which more people needs to come and see the truly unique historical stuff that's in the city of Malden. Is that correct?
Yes. One thing I'd like to mention, I don't know, you know who Jack Swigert is?
Sure.
Okay, the commander of Apollo 13. He actually was trained at Malden for a short period of time. And some things I've done in my research, it said that, he accredited his time at Malden to impact his future career. And so that's kind of a unique thing. And then there was another, his name is Major Robert Lawrence Jr. He took his training in Malden in 1956. But in 1967, he became the first African-American astronaut named by, NASA. But unfortunately, later on in 67, he died in a test flight. So he never did get to go in space. But those are a couple of unique things that people don't realize.
And it sounds like that you spent quite a bit of time just kind of going through and combing through some the records there at Malden. What are some of the more unique things other than those things which are really amazing? Some of the other things that you've discovered as a result of the training at the Malden Airport.
They did a lot of night flying, and my understanding was they would fly to Paducah, and there's no formal official records, but some of the pilots, there's some notes saying that there was a few of them that flew under the cable bridge on their way to Paducah. They said it was not authorized, but there was a few who had done that. And I thought that was kind of an interesting thing. Also, part of their training for World War II, they started training them to do troop carriers. And what that is, that's a glider pulled by a plane. And so these troop carriers had, it's just what it is. And they, for a short time there, they trained them at Malden how to pull those gliders. And so that's one of the things that I don't think people realize, because we got some photos of some of those gliders in our museum.
And again, here we're David Blalock on Welcome to the Booth, KDEX AM 1590, Darren Todd. The city manager of the, the airport manager for the city of Malden, and also the economic director. And we're talking about some of the unique things that are going on or are happening at the actual museum there on the airport. And I think it's unique for the people to know that the airport museum is free.
Yes.
It's open daily as long as the airport is open, correct?
That is correct.
And they actually have exhibits that are life-size that you can look at and things of that nature.
Yes.
Is there also notes and uniforms and things?
Yes. There are several notes, several books that people have donated on behalf of, a past, father or whatever. And so there's a lot of that in there.
And talking about some of the other stuff that you've done, David, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the MoDOT piece because I'm very interested in that quite a bit. You indicated that you've helped build several roads, 60, 67, things of that nature. What was the process of doing that? I have a very addictive personality in which when I start something, I have to do it immediately and get it finished. How long did it take you to finish the projects on 60 and 67?
Those actually moved pretty quick, but there was up around Farmington area, Highway 32, there was a project that I helped finish that started in 1967, and we finished it in the 90s. That's kind of a rarity, but just like, I know 412, they're working on the environmental study. It's going to take a year or two to get through that environmental study. Once that environmental study gets done, then they got to go through, a process of what's going to be the best design. And then once that's selected, then if they got to acquire property, which is probably going to be a year to 2 year process of acquiring property, and then you'll have the contractor. I mean, it's going to be, it's anywhere from a 5 to 10 year process, depending on the size of the project.
And when you talk a little bit about acquiring a property, a lot of people get mad about that. We're talking about eminent domain, things of that nature. But nothing that's ever been built to help us be better infrastructure-wise has ever been easy, correct?
No, it has not been easy.
And you indicated that you've also had a situation in which you've had to go to individuals and say, hey, we need this property and see where we're at. Is that correct?
That is correct.
What was that experience like?
One lady in particular is her family home. She was a lady, I think, probably in her 70s or 80s, and here we were going to acquire her home. That was a hard thing to do because she's like, I don't have no family. I don't know where I'm going to go.
Right.
And part of MoDOT they just don't say, here's the check. Mm-hmm. Their responsibility is to help to find comparable place for her to move, that kind of stuff. So, MoDOT tries their best. I know they get a bad rap for it, but they try their best to help people who get relocated.
And we're talking with David Blalock, who is the airport manager in the city of Malden, as well as the economic director. And we've talked a little bit about. It sounds like you've had a wide array of managerial situation there at the airport. You've also done a 3 years working for the Boot Hill Regional Planning Commission. Is that correct?
That's correct.
In which you wrote numerous grants for wastewater and things of that nature. And you've also done 31 years, is that correct? At MoDOT in helping build infrastructure.
Yeah. What I did at MoDOT was we put together plans. We didn't actually build them. I want to clarify that because there's a few people going to hear that. He's like, he would never built anything.
Well, I think it's, and it sounds like you have a wide array of services that are very beneficial to the area. Do you have any idea how long you want to stay as the airport manager?
I've told the mayor and the city administrator, I said, I'll give you about 18 more months. And I said, at that point, I said, I'm going to do something else.
Okay.
I just don't know what it is yet.
Right. And we're again here with David Blalock on KDX AM 1590. Welcome to the booth with Darren Todd. And in talking a little bit about the museum and some of the individuals who were trained there, have you had the opportunity to have some people come back and actually say, hey, I learned how to fly here, and what my life was while they were there at Malden?
We've had a few. There was a gentleman that flew in. Him and his son flew in. It was probably back in the spring, and his dad actually trained there. And so it was very interesting because he was showing his son, in the museum, the things that he'd done. Some of the buildings, he said, now this building was this that are still standing. And so it was very interesting to hear them talk.
And I guess my question, too, is whenever people talk about the city of Malden and the airport, there's all kinds of rumors of, hey, back in the day, FedEx wanted to come in here and we turned them down, and so-and-so wanted to bring in this factory. That's not the case, is it?
I've not found any record of that. I've heard that about FedEx. Supposedly the president of CEO of FedEx said that at one point. I've not found any record of it. But, that's not to say, with the FAA, things move slower back then especially. And sometimes it didn't move as fast as some of these companies wanted to stick a shovel in the ground. And so they moved on somewhere else.
And again, it's the Federal Aviation Commission, which is part of the government, is going to be very deliberate in all their actions.
Yes. And part of the reason that is they want the airport to be self-sustaining with their funds. And so that's the reason we have all that oversight. We can't just go in there and sell 1,000 acres of farmland because then we would be broke. We couldn't do anything. The FAA wouldn't allow that to happen.
So the FAA is kind of a stopgap to make sure that the Malden Airport is always self-sustaining and can always pay its bills and keep it up and maintain it.
Yes.
And who's your direct contact that you talk to at the FAA?
MoDOT has a contact that I work through them, and they're kind of the liaison between us and the FAA. I do have a contact that I've talked to in Kansas City some, especially when it comes to selling the property. But other than that, I'd work directly with MoDOT.
And then again, we're here with David Blalock, the manager of the City of Malden Airport and the economic director for the City of Malden. And David, in regards to the airport itself, does someone from the FAA or some other organization come down and inspect on a yearly basis?
MoDOT comes every couple of years to inspect. I've had a couple of FAA people just stop in. They were in the area. Hey, we've never been here, and would go out and drive around and look at it and stuff. But we're not on a scheduled inspection with the FAA. And
you indicated that it's no secret that you've given 18 months to the city manager and the mayor, and then you're going to be retired. What do you look for the next 18 months? What's your goal or your vision for the airport for the next 18 months?
To make sure that the things I have done will make the airport prosper after I'm gone. We work with a consultant. We have a consultant on retainer at the airport. and we look at a 5-year program, just like MoDOT does. But we look at a 5-year program of projects that we want to do, what it's going to cost, and so that's how we make sure that the airport is always looking to maintain what we have.
And again, I think it's very important that the listeners know that every year that you've been the manager of the airport there in Malden, you've had a balanced budget. Is that correct?
Yes.
Which is always good for the steward of the taxpayers, I think, that. And I think it's also very beneficial that everyone knows that everything you do is for the betterment of the airport. Is that correct?
Yes.
And explain to us, what's the plan as far as, have you talked about a succession plan as far as who's going to take over? Is it going to open up again? I know you talked about your office manager's name is Tara. I didn't know if that was a situation, or am I going in an area that we're not going to talk about?
I've told her, I said, you need to learn everything I'm telling you, because I said, you could be the airport manager.
Right.
I said, I'm not sure. That's one reason Yvonne and Denton wanted me to say, be sure and let us know, so that we'll know that it's just not like I want to walk out one day and somebody's going to walk in. When I took over, the former airport manager was already gone. And so there wasn't a passing of the baton. It was, I walked in and I was like, I knew nothing about airports. And so it's kind of like at the Boot Hill Regional Planning, when I walked in, the other executive director walked out, and that was it. I was on my own.
So there wasn't any situation in which the predecessor said, hey, here's some of the pitfalls, here's some things that we need to plan for, here's some things we're concerned about down the road.
Right.
And you're not wanting to leave the city in that position, correct?
No, I do not. And the previous airport manager, she done a really good job of documenting everything. I mean, I found a lot of things. She guided me through her notes, but she moved from Malden, so she wasn't readily available. But she told me, she said, if you need anything, you can call me, which was nice, but it's not like sitting down, it's like, hey, I've got all these questions. But she did leave a lot of good notes for me, contacts. Hey, if you have a question, this person can help you out.
And again, we're here with David Blalock, the manager of the airport there in the city of Malden, also the economic director for the city of Malden. We're welcome to the booth on KDX AM 1590 with Darren Todd. We've been talking a little bit about his experience. One thing I really want people to realize is I want them to know that museum is something that people need to come and see. Is that correct?
Yes. It just takes a little bit to come and look at it. I mean, there's a lot of people, even in the town of Malden's, like, I didn't even know there was a museum out there. They drive around, they see a lot of the buildings, and they assume that they're all vacant. And I'm like, no, we have somebody in every building except one. It's like, really? Well, it's just, people just don't come out there. It's out of sight, out of mind.
And again, I think people need to realize, and I've asked you that earlier about the numerous businesses, the airport property abuts up to Highway 25, which is where the several businesses are all the way back. And it's how many acres of farm ground in addition?
There's about 1,900 acres of farmland. And
2,900 acres altogether.
Yes.
And obviously, and in talking to David Blalock, the city manager, the manager of the airport in the city of Malden, as well as the economic director, I think it's very obvious, and we're getting close to the end of our time, but I want people to know that it sounds like in every job you've ever had, you've came in and you've hit the ground running from the basement and worked your way up. Is that pretty much correct?
I have tried.
31 years with MoDOT, Boot Hill Regional Planning, because I've tried to tackle some of those grant applications, and those things are not easy to get through.
That's why good staff is there for you. I mean, that's, I've had some great people to help me out with that.
And I think one thing also is, if you've never been afraid, if you don't know the answer to a question, ask somebody who does have the answer, correct?
That is correct.
And talking a little bit more here on KDX AM 1590, welcome to the booth with Darren Todd. Tell me a little bit about yourself, David. Tell me a little bit what you do when you're not working at the airport or developing plans for the city of Malden.
I have 3 grandkids that keep me really busy. A 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 2-year-old. And so a lot of my time is spent, and they live locally, so I get to see them, pretty well, not every day, but I get to see them quite often. Other than that, I'm involved with my church, and so that's basically my hobbies. I don't really do a lot of other things other than that.
And again, we're here with David Blalock. And we've been talking a little bit about the airport there in Malden. And you brought me this neat cup. I know that they can't see it on the radio, but it's the Malden Malden Air Base Museum, Pathway to the Airways. Pilot training years were 1943 to 1948 and 1951 to 1960. It's in Malden, Missouri, 573-276-2279.
That is my office number, yes.
And again, your doors are always open, and you're more than welcome for people to come. And I think I really hope that more people come out to that museum, because I really think it's an impressive thing in the city of Malden.
Yes, I think so too.
And again, on behalf of my executive producer, Evan Todd, and my main man to my right, Mooring Johnson, who always comes in with all the appropriate language and quips. Isn't that right, Mooring? He doesn't have a microphone, so he can't say anything. I always give him grief. We'd like to thank you for listening to David Blalock on Welcome to the Booth, KDX AM 1590, and we'll see you tomorrow.